Hey guys, this week we did mini project 2, and the name of my app I chose to do was String Painter. This app accepts a user string input and prints it along a path that the user draws with their finger. Users can select a color that they want the text to appear as, red, blue, or black, which is also the default, in case they don't click my radio buttons, just as a precaution. As they draw with their finger, a media player initializes the sound of a brushstroke. Alright, so this app is going to include a custom view layout object. I don't know if we've gone over that yet or not in class, but I did a lot of videos or watched a lot of videos on how to do like drawing apps, but I didn't want to do a generic drawing app. So uh, this was one of the best things I came across, so I studied up and learned how to do that. Then I created a Java class for it. I got a radio group and radio buttons, relative layouts. Uh, I also have a media player. So I'll add that in there real quick. Forgot to do that. Custom plus splash screen, custom map logo and launcher icon. That's not a new thing, but my splash screen, I decided to just go ahead and use my template for last week and just save it as something I'll use for future assignments. I see no point in doing it twice if it's going to be the same thing every time. And then a lot of blood, sweat, tears, time, love, and hate went into this. A long time. So with that being said, let's get into it. Here's my strings. Not a whole lot to this. Just generic, small stuff. So I'm not really gonna go over that too much. A splash activity is what's gonna open up at first. You'll see down here, I just have an empty text view, and that is solely there just to keep this in place. Um, and like I said, I want to keep using this as a template for the future. And so this is just the layout I'm going to stick with. And down here, I've just got the text view is set to empty, and that's it. For my actual coding for that, same as last week. For my action bar, still had to do this again, so I just left it in there just to hide the action bar on the opening because I don't want it there. Um, I'm transferring from splash to main activity once it's done, and the timer task I've set for that is 3 seconds or 3,000 milliseconds. So activity main, for my design, halfway through coding this, it stopped showing up, and I think that that's because of my custom view object, which is drawView, and I'll go more into that as we go along, but here's the code behind that. The layout is basically just going to be the entire top half of the screen, and usually will be able to draw over pretty much the entire screen once it gets going. And then this stuff is all just for my radio group and everything. Or I guess it's my buttons at the bottom, and then my radio group and radio buttons. So I've got red, blue, and black. That's the colors the users are going to select. And then my buttons is going to be draw, which is where it takes the text that the users put in, if they've put in any at all. And then the clear button just clears everything and then resets the path. And I'll go over that later as well. And then here's just where we get the user input from. It's just a plain text box. So, main activity. I'm initializing some variables up here, and also calling on drawView, the the object. This right here, I've only got here just to satisfy the code checker. I was just wanting to leave this blank until we get back into it, but I set it to white. That's not going to matter at all because it's going to be immediately overridden. So I don't know. There's probably a better way to go about that, but I just quickly did that just to get it off my desk. Okay, so I'm setting my layout, blah, blah, blah. Okay, calling on drawView. I'm finding my radio group of colors, and then I'm setting an on-check change listener for it. So, once I get the checked ID, I run through my switch case. If it's red, the selected color is set to red. Blue, it's blue. Black is the default, but I'm setting it to that anyways because if they select red or blue, then I still have to have something for them to go back and click if they wanted to change to black. But I left it in there, this in there anyways because it was going to be the default. Then I'm sending my selected color, or I'm taking my selected color and then setting it for drawView. Okay, method call when the draw button is clicked, setting the text, like we did up there earlier, getting that selected text. I'm getting that string from the user text view that we saw earlier, and invalidating. I have to do the invalidate for every single time I call on drawView. I feel like it was the only way I could get it to work. Um, I don't understand why it works, but it does. All right, and then the clear button just calls through the clear method, and I've got that over here in the drawView class that I created. So this just extends view, that view object. Um, okay, so I'm setting up my variables right here, and this is where I was talking about my default is set to black before they even click anything. So if they don't click anything, they're not going to run into an error where they can't draw or anything. So it's just black. Uh, for my current string, just in case the user forgets to put anything in the text box, I've got this long empty string, and then you get down here, you forgot to enter text, just as like a funny thing. So they'll be drawing for a little bit, and then it'll finally populate. I'm initializing paint and paint, and then path and path, and I'll call on that a lot. So that's where I'm going to get my color, and then my path is just getting the coordinates and everything. I'm setting up my media player. All right, setting up the context for drawView, and then getting my attributes for it. So new paint and alias. This is just the normal stuff, just so it doesn't look all blotchy and stuff. That's more so important with text. Just setting the paint style and joint, so whenever you're going around, it actually looks rounded, and you're not ending up with like blocky, sharp, jagged points. My stroke width is 10. I found that this gave me hollow letters, which I kind of like the look of rather than the solid. If it was too solid and blocky, I couldn't read it. So I set that to 10, and then my text size itself is 100. So it almost looks like you're leaving the path, drawing a letter, then getting back on the path, and continuing on that way. This right here took me a long time to figure out. Basically, I'm creating the media player and attaching it to brush sound, which I have tied in my raw folder, which I created, and then added brushsound.mp3. And then I'm setting it to looping the entire time that the user is drawing. And when they stop drawing, it's going to stop playing the media player, and then it's going to reset and then start going through this again. So on draw, canvas, canvas, which is going to be attached to my draw view, I'm setting my color, I'm setting my path and the paint, and so the path is just being set by the user drawing. Here's my text size, setting color, typeface, just default, and then bold, italic, and looping through that. Okay, and this is just where I'm setting the text to display along my path. Uh, I could play around with this more if I wanted to, but I just kept it as it is. This is just to get rid of my yellow triangles of death. Paint and path are not final, so I don't want them to be, so I just ignore that. Okay, down here I'm getting my coordinates, and this is going to be my float, X and Y, on the touch event, which, yeah, I'm setting up a touch event. And then down here, I've got 3 actions that I want to keep an eye out for. Action down, when the user is actually touching the screen. Action move, whenever they're moving across the screen. And action up, whenever they leave the screen. Originally, I could not get my clear function to work correctly, my clear button. So my backup at the time, until I figured it out, uh, was to just every time they pick up, it would, and then start back down, it would start the string over again and start the path. And once I figured out the solution to that, I couldn't figure out really quickly how to continue the string from the last position. So in order to get around that, I would have to create a string array, and I just didn't want to deal with it. And I feel like I was sufficient enough in the rest of my code to where it's fine. Okay, so I had a lot of trouble with the media player, and so I could get it to work the first time, but then I couldn't get it to work every time after that. So every time that the user clicks down, it checks if the media player is null, then stop it, release it, and then I'm going to set it all up again. So this is the same thing I think we saw earlier. Yeah, up here. And then starting. And then I'm resetting my path every time I click down. That's what I was talking about up here. And then moving to wherever X and Y is. And as I'm moving, I want to make sure that the media player is playing. So this is just another backup over here because I couldn't figure that out earlier. So it's uh, the user as they're moving, the media player is playing. As they're not moving, it's off. And if they've let off the screen, it's not playing. Action up, stopping media. So that's where they get off. And then there's no default for it. Validating drawView. So just so I can start over again if I wanted to keep redrawing. This is to clear the canvas. I'm clearing my path, and our path you have to think is the line that you're actually drawing, and you're drawing the path, the line, and the words are populating on top of that. So this is just clearing the path, and by clearing the path, I clear all the words too. Invalidate again. All right, down here, setting my current text, setting the current color, and down here is my stop media player. Stopping, and this on detached from window, I did have it on stop, but for some reason that wasn't working. That's what I had done last week. It wasn't working anywhere, and I found this on Stack Overflow somewhere, and so I tried it, and it worked, so I don't want to really question it too much. And down here, just setting my media player to null if this has been run through, so I want it to stop. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and run our app. Splash screen. And here we go. So let's not click on anything and let's not put anything in. There's a sound. You forgot to enter text. So if we go again, and let's click red this time. Okay. So let's go over here. It's clear. Do that. All right. Now that we have all this set up, we'll put something in here and go down, draw, so it accepts that string. But if I wanted to, let's say, copy a poem, which is Memoriam by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Come on. All right. So just long poem. Let's go ahead and close that. We'll click draw. And now we can draw with it. And it's going to keep doing this. And if you run out of words like we saw earlier, it's just going to keep drawing on that line. Let's switch to black. Start over. All in all, it came out working, and I'm pretty happy about that. I put a lot of time into this, so I hope it's worth a good grade at least. If anything, it's just something fun and unique. But yeah, that's it for this week. Thank you.